Good morning. Welcome to Unity of San Marcos. I'm Reverend Sondra von Gyllenband, and I welcome you, and I'm grateful that you've joined us today. And let's begin with prayer. I invite you to take a nice deep breath and remember that where you are in this moment is sacred space. We are all in that sacred space as we acknowledge the presence of the Christ within us, moving through us. And we are so very grateful. And so it is. Amen. So we come today to look at joy and to continue a talk on joy that I started last week. So what is joy? What is true joy? What is real joy? Where do we find it? What's the ultimate source of joy? Well, the ultimate source of joy is that it's God coming through us. Joy is found within us. Oftentimes we think joy is about money or things or gifts or outer stuff, but those are things of the outer world. Joy really comes from the interior. It is that place of knowing peace. It is that place in knowing that we are one. And joy can come right in the midst of dismay, right in the midst of heartache. It is something that can happen no matter what's going on in our lives. Outer attachment does not bring inner happiness or joy. Outer attachment to that stuff that we do get so attached to will not bring us joy. And yet, we can participate in the creation of joy. We can participate in letting go and releasing needless, unnecessary suffering. We create our own pain, or we create our own joy as we move into the state of knowing, that state of alignment with God, with the divine. So I spoke of the 8 pillars of joy and how they can lead us into experiencing a greater joy, a space of greater joy. And if we do something about a situation, if we can do something about a situation that perhaps we don't like, but there's something we can do about it, then let's do it. And if there is not anything that we can do about that situation, let us let it go. Now, if our life is in danger, there's something we can do. If there is absolutely nothing we can do and our life's in danger, shall we just relax? Well, that's what the Dalai Lama said in his case when he was escaping from Tibet to moving into India. And he said he'd never been so scared in his life, but he knew there was nothing he could do. So he faced the fear and continued on. That's one of the ways that we can be at peace with what we're doing. But let's look at how we can bring more joy into our lives. There are 8 pillars that are in alignment, and 4 of them are qualities of the mind, which is what I talked about last week. There's perception, that we can look and see and make a choice and make a decision. We can change our mind about something. There's humility. Humility is that place that we know that we are all equal as humans, that we are all there the same. Dalai Lama says he's just a humble monk. The Archbishop Tutu says that before he goes out speaking to a crowd, he realizes that he's just like they are. So there's that oneness and the knowing of oneness and the recognizing that we are all in this together. That's humility. And there's humor. The Dalai Lama and Archbishop Tutu use lots of humor with each other, and they use lots of humor about themselves. And it's a way to open up and connect with people. It's just to go ahead and laugh at ourselves and to recognize that life is too important to take it too seriously. We need to lighten up. laugh, and enjoy. And then there is acceptance. If we cannot change a situation, then it may be time that we accept it, because that acceptance allows us to move ahead. Acceptance allows us to make choice and decide where we're going to go and what we're going to do from there. So with all of this, with the perception, we can reframe our experience, we can change our mind, and we can create our own world. That's one of Unity's basic principles. With humility, we never feel superior. And on the same side, we never feel less than. We are equals. With humor, we laugh, we make jokes, we tease lovingly, very lovingly. And with acceptance, we know that the only place that change can begin is when we accept what is, when we realize that this situation is this situation. And so what are we going to do with that? How are we going to make it different? It is the opposite of resignation or defeat. Actually, it's a very courageous and bold statement. So my question is, how can we use a situation that we're unhappy with for something positive? How can we begin to look at something that is, as we accept it, and find the positive in it? Acceptance allows us to engage with life on its own terms, rather than try to make it what we want. Because we seldom can do that. We can seldom change, control, and make things other than the way they are. So let us give up the struggle and to be one in truth. So those are the pillars of the mind, and they lead us to the first pillar of the heart. Now, the Dalai Lama and Reverend and Archbishop Tutu spent a lot of time going, it's about the heart. No, it's about the head. No, the truth is it's a combination of heart and head. We need to use our head and make decisions. And we need to use our hearts to melt into the situation and find love. Because truly love will lead us, heal us, bring us peace, and bring us joy. Love. It's a very important element of life. So let's look at the next 5 pillars, recognizing that they are pillars of the heart. So the very first one, my very all-time favorite, is forgiveness. Forgiveness. You know, oftentimes we want we take poison thinking somebody else will die. Or we allow ourselves to be miserable long after something has changed and the other person has walked on. And then there's the piece of forgiving ourselves. Very important. Very important that we forgive ourselves for the way we react to things, for the fact that we hold on to things. Forgiveness. It's a place that we can experience spiritual growth and to acknowledge. Now, in acceptance, we've acknowledged what is, and we may have feelings of anger or loss or sadness, and it's important that we feel those. I want to be sure and point that out. It's important that we feel our feelings, and then we can move on to that place of forgiveness. It's a way to heal ourselves and to be free of the past. Unless we release a person through forgiveness, they still have a hold on us. I met a woman one time who had been seriously hurt by someone. And when she told me the story, I thought it had happened a day or two before. She was so entrenched in the story. I said, well, how long ago has that been? And it had been something like 20 years. But for her, it was so fresh. I said, can you begin to let go of it? Can you begin? Are you willing to let go of that? And to see that he's gone. because every day you're giving him absolute power to redo what he has done. Let's let it go. She's like, oh, I never considered it that way. I never realized that it was as if he were doing it day in and day out, again and again and again. So forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. It's a sign of courage. It's a sign of boldly walking forward to see what needs to be done, to take care of what needs to be done. And then the sixth pillar we've heard so much about in our lives is gratitude. Being grateful for something. Being grateful for something good. Find the good. Look for the good. Even if it's, I'm fortunate to be alive. I'm fortunate to be breathing. How can we find that good? We can be willing. We can be willing to see it. And we know that there is good even in difficult situations. We know that there is good even in those moments where we feel that things are not going as they should. The Dalai Lama talks about how grateful he is and how good things are that he was forced to leave Tibet, because he knows so many more people, and he and the Archbishop are really good friends now, and he can laugh and he can travel and he can see things that he would have never been able to see had he remained in Tibet. So for him, he is grateful. He is very grateful. So here's an example of how we can find gratitude. There were two cancer survivors. They had the same wound. They had the same prognosis. They had everything going about the same. But one spent his time crying and bemoaning the fact that he had cancer. The other one was quite excited and said, oh, this is great. I'm going to be in a wheelchair and I'll be able to wheel out of my room and downstairs, and I'll be at the same level as my children. I'll be able to look them in the eye as I'm in my wheelchair. And I can smell the flowers because I'll be closer to the ground. I can wheel right up to them and see their beauty. So he found himself grateful in the midst of his situation, where the other person cried and bemoaned the fact. And of course we don't want to have a disease. Of course we don't want to be sick. But oftentimes we are. And are we going to just fall down and cease to exist? Are we going to stand up and find the good? Find that can serve us, that can be the lesson in whatever situation we're in. So when we exercise that place of gratitude, we begin to build greater empathy, greater compassion. As we build that place of gratitude, we begin to be stronger and more courageous in all that needs to be done in our own lives. And the seventh pillar is compassion. Compassionate concern for others is a place of love. It is a place of finding truth. Too much self-centered thinking is a source of suffering, and I don't think we want to suffer. But compassionate concern for others will bring about well-being for ourselves. It will bring a source of happiness. It will give us concern that arises when we are confronted with another's suffering. We'll feel motivated to see suffering relieved. Compassion is what comes with feeling empathy. It leads us to acts of kindness, generosity, outer expressions of tenderness. Compassion. I remember during one of the hurricanes, the Cajun Navy came to the rescue. And they were a group of people that just said, here we are. They came out in boats and with chainsaws so they could cut things down to help people, not people they knew, but to help people who were suffering. They found a way to take action in the middle of a situation that was very painful. The eighth pillar is generosity, that it's a natural outgrowth of compassion. It's a line between two people. If we can allow ourselves to be generous to ourselves and others, then we can find that oneness, that place where there is oneness, where we are one with what is, who is. We can find that place of oneness in the streets when people may be very different than us, very different. Photographer Ansel Adams was a fidgety child, and he had a difficult time learning. And his father realized that he needed a change. So his father became willing to take him out of school, which he did, and he began to teach him in those teachable moments out in the world. They went off searching for things in nature. He took pictures, he observed. He found ways to use his natural curiosity in a way to examine and learn things that he would have normally learned in school if he had been able to. His father traveled with him so that he could see different parts of the world and directed him to develop his talents, directed him to find new activities. It was an internal spark that kept Ansel's creativity going. And as we all know, he became a well-known photographer. He was a successful person because his father said, let's do something different. His father recognized through compassion and was generous through his time and his activities with his son. So this made a great peace for his son. His son was propelled into a new sense of life and love. So when we're generous, when we can give to someone, and that does include ourselves. It does. I'll talk about that more in just a moment. Meditation is another key. Meditation is a way of reaching joy. It's a peaceful inner state of being. In the book of the Ho'oponopono prayer, it is taught that we can go within and use this prayer for everything in the world and have forgiveness and transformation. It's a practice that a gentleman used in a psychiatric ward, and he began reading the notes for all of the patients there. And he would read the note, and then he would do this prayer. And things started to happen in the psychiatric ward, and people were wondering why he was so successful and why so many people were turned around. And actually what happened was everybody ended up going home, and they closed the hospital because of the success of this prayer. And this prayer goes, I'm sorry, forgive me, I love you, thank you. Now, what order should that be? Doesn't matter. I kind of like saying, I'm sorry, forgive me, I love you, thank you. If you see somebody in the street and you find yourself judging them, you can just say, oh, I'm sorry, forgive me, I love you, thank you. And it begins to cause a shift in you. And you'll find yourself in that place of compassion and love. And you'll begin to recognize anew the oneness that we have with others. So do we do this with ourselves? You bet. And why is that? Because so oftentimes we overdo it with ourselves. We don't take care of our bodies. We don't take care of our minds. We don't rest. We don't get enough sleep. We don't exercise. So it's important that we have compassion for ourselves and that we're generous with ourselves. Yes, we want to help. Yes, we want to reach out. Yes, we want to serve. And as they say on the airplane, put your oxygen mask on first, because you can't help anybody else if you don't have it on. So this practice of, I'm sorry, forgive me. When we say I'm sorry, what we're doing is acknowledging that I created. When I say I'm sorry, I acknowledge I created this sense of separation, this pain. I caused the errors that I've made. So I'm saying, if I've thought bad of you, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. If I had a judgment about you, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. You're another human being. We're all humans, and we're all one. So as we can love and reach and make those connections, we begin to find that sense of peace, which leads us to joy. Forgive me because I don't know what I do. Oh my goodness. And Jesus said that from the cross. I find that the most powerful statement that he made from the cross. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. We don't understand when we are hurting others. We don't understand when we hurt ourselves. And we need to understand that it's important. When we say I love you, we're talking about the Christ presence within that person. You're not talking about their personality or their ego. You're talking about the divine. It's about reaching into that place that is true. So meditation can be active. It can be at traffic lights. It can be walking. It can be in an elevator. It can be in the middle of the night when you wake up and you can't get back to sleep. Meditation, using this prayer, using this over and over, begins to shift. So there are many ways to meditate. Again, walking, sitting, however works for you. I met a young lady who had a real hard time sitting still, and yet she lived in a small apartment. So she got a tennis ball, and she started bouncing it on the floor, and then she realized that she lived on the second floor. So she began throwing the tennis ball in the air and catching it. And that was her meditation. She just allowed that ball to come up and come down, up and down. She focused. She kept her mind focused out of its chatter, out of the monkey mind chatter that the mind can get so active on. So we can meditate in so many ways. We can focus on our breath, just breathing in, breathing out. If our mind starts to wander, we call it back. I'm breathing in now. I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. Again, if we start to wonder, we can ask the question, what's important here? We want to listen. We want to hear God's direction to us. We want to be aware that God is everywhere. So if we veer off, we bring our perception back. We put our faith in God. And faith is an interesting thing because we talk about building our faith and having faith the size of a mustard seed. I was meditating the other day and it came to me how much faith God has in us, that God was willing to create us in his image and likeness. Oh my goodness, how much faith has been extended to us in our humanness. So if God can have that much faith in us, can't we have faith? Can't we have faith in ourselves? Can't we have faith in others? Can't we have faith that it's going to turn out okay? Life is going to turn out okay. A situation that we may not know the answer to, it's going to turn out okay. Because God has faith in us. God gives us the tools and the power to be creative. God trusts us with all this, all that is. God trusts us with life. Generosity is giving service, serving others, serving with no expectations, none, expecting nothing back. Can you do that? Can you serve others just from your heart? Just saying, I'm happy to do that. Being of service, doing it because, again, like the Cajun Army, or the Cajun Navy, just getting out there, helping people in the midst of a hurricane, helping people in the midst of a disaster, taking their boats and their food and going out to make a difference. They actually have a group of about 19,000 volunteers who come together to help when there are natural disasters. That's huge. That's big. That's quite a commitment. And they say that their mission is to connect the needs of the community with those who are willing to serve and to provide a trusted place where information can be shared and acquired. That's wonderful. What a mission. And doesn't it feel good when we do something at that level? So, in looking at joy in the 8 pillars, we have perspective. We have perspective of how we're going to look at something. We have humility, recognizing that we are all one. We have humor. We get to laugh at ourselves, recognize the truth and see the truth. We have acceptance. We get to accept things. God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We've been given the pillar of forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and generosity. We've been given those tools as a way to show up in life and be more than ego, be more than self-centered. We want to bring our head and our heart into alignment, melting them together, allowing the connection to move through you, through the stages of grief, through the stages of disharmony, through the stages of heartbreak. So we want to know that we can trust God as God trusts us. We can have faith in God as God has in us. We can breathe ourselves back into the awareness of God. And if you just think about breathing in it on its own, if you realize that if you stop thinking about breathing, you will continue to breathe, then you can feel a freedom. You can feel an unlimited joy. You can feel that in spite of the circumstances around you, all is well. You can find joy in the moment. And I'd like to close with speaking a song written by Ron Bretsky. It goes like this. The scorpion stings, that is his to do. We are all here to bring our minds to the truth. Be it mine to love, be it mine to give. I come to you. Do it in the name of the one, O Nishkarma. Do it from your loving heart. There's pleasure in the world. Watch it come and go. And then there are things that never cease to flow. Express yourself in truth. Lack there cannot be found. Shake the shackles loose. In giving love abound. Do it in the name of the one. Oh, Nishkarma. Do it cause it's yours to be done. Oh, nishkarma. Do it in service of love. Oh, nishkarma. To serve, to do, to radiate the higher you. To serve, to do the higher you. To serve, to do the higher good. Do it in the name of the one, nishkarma. Do it because it's yours to be done. Oh, nishkarma. Do it in the service of love. Oh, nishkarma. Nishkarma meaning to come together in oneness and wholeness. Do it in the name of love. Let us come together. Let us experience joy. Let us find that place where we can be at peace with ourselves, at joy with ourselves. Let us serve others. Let us give to others so that we know that we are participating fully in the life that was given to us by God. You know, God sent Jesus here, and Jesus served. That's what he did. The disciples came and they served. That's what they did. Don't you feel good when you serve? I know I do. So I ask you this week to make a difference in your life and in the life of those that you love by serving, by doing a little bit. You know, one of the things that I find so much fun is to give a smile when I go in a store. So many people are just unaware when they walk in the store, and the clerks are just there doing their job. If we smile and say, hello, how are you? It brightens their day. We can give. It doesn't cost a lot of money. We don't have to spend money to give. We can give from our heart. We can give our love. We can recognize our oneness with all humankind. We can reach out to those who need a smile today, to those who need a helping hand, to those that want to know that they matter, even if they appear not to. So I invite you to take those thoughts, go with me into prayer. Divine One, let us raise our energy to a place of knowing truth, a place of speaking truth, a place of being truth. We know that there is joy in the moment, joy. We find that place of joy in the midst of whatever's happening. We find joy, we find love, and we allow ourselves to expand into the universe, expand into the knowing. So it is, and so we let it be. Amen. Again, it was great having you with us today, and I hope that you'll join us next week. God bless you, and namaste.